And hello, welcome back comic book fans. You are at Flashback Comics in Woodbridge, Virginia. I am Troy David Phillips, the manager at Flashback Comics in Woodbridge, Virginia. And today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite comic book sub-subjects. That's right, sub-subjects. How many of you like superhero teams? I'm sure that's quite a few of you. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the construction of superhero teams in comics. Now, whether it's Marvel or DC or Image, doesn't really matter. There are three consistently successful formulas for the superhero team in comic book history. Now, if you're a fan of the Marvel Universe, you're familiar with teams like the Fantastic Four. You are probably more than a little bit familiar with the Uncanny X-Men, and by now you should know who the Avengers are. And these three teams are the ABC of superhero success. The first formula for success is the characters with a shared origin. Now, there is really no catchphrase or terminology for this, but these characters, generally speaking, all derive their powers at the same time from the same source. So in the case of the Fantastic Four, they travel into space, they're struck by cosmic rays in the Van Allen radiation belt, they crash land to Earth, and one by one they each develop their superhuman powers. Reed Richards and Ben Grimm are longtime friends. Susan Storm is the girl that loves Reed Richards, and Johnny Storm is her young, rash, impulsive kid brother. So the characters all have a history together that spans several years, and their powers come about from a common genesis. There are other teams that follow that formula, but the Fantastic Four are the best known among them. Now, the second formula for success for super teams seems to be the formula of the Uncanny X-Men. We are all one kind of thing, and we unify together to battle against whatever our common opponent is. It might be evil mutants, it might be prejudice, it could be any number of things. The Uncanny X-Men are probably the best known example, but they aren't the only well-known example. For example, the Teen Titans. The original Teen Titans were also all something. They all had something in common. They were teenage sidekicks. They were the young proteges of their adult mentors. In any event, coming up now to the third formula for success. Now, this one is one that I have nicknamed the All-Star Formula. The All-Star Formula actually goes all the way back to the Golden Age, and you see it probably first and best in the pages of All-Star Comics with the Justice Society of America. These are all characters who headline a feature, or they headline an actual title, like Jay Garrick, the Flash, or Hawkman of the Hawkman series within Flash Comics, and so on. All of these characters are brought together, and for the fan, wow, for one thin dime, I can have all these guys in one book. Of course I'm going to do that. The A-list formula has persisted through the years, and it is not unique to DC Comics. In the 1960s, however, again, one of the best known examples of the All-Star formula becomes the Avengers. Thor, from the pages of Journey into Mystery, Iron Man from the pages of Tales of Suspense, Giant Man, or Ant-Man originally, and the Wasp from Tales to Astonish, and the Incredible Hulk, who had his own book, which was canceled, but the Hulk persisted as a guest star, most predominantly in the pages of Fantastic Four, where he slugged it out with the Thing. In any event, these five characters would later be joined by Captain America, our living legend of World War II brought back in the Silver Age of comics. So now you have the Avengers, an all-star team. Every one of these characters holds their own book, until writer-editor Stan Lee at the time decided that it was too confusing to keep coming up with the continuity of where each character was between their own book and the team book. So he wrote out everybody except Captain America and gave us Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch. Hawkeye had previously fought Iron Man in Tales of Suspense. Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch had fought the X-Men in the pages of Uncanny X-Men, and this became Cap's Kooky Quartet. Now, for the most part, through the history of comics, there have been other types of teams. none of those teams have had the same degree of success, the same longevity as any of the teams that follow one of those three formulas. There are long-lived teams, and you wouldn't think about it, but say, for example, the Defenders. The original Defenders were the Hulk, Doctor Strange, and the Submariner. Three characters who were outsiders, three characters who were not as public figures as Captain America and Iron Man, etc. But lo and behold, the Hulk, holding his own feature in Tales to Astonish, Doctor Strange, previously of Strange Tales and now into Doctor Strange, and the Submariner, previously from Tales to Astonish, holding down his own book in Submariner, following the Avenger formula. Not every team that follows the formula is necessarily successful. Let me point out Marvel's short-lived Bronze Age team, the Champions. Hercules, the Black Widow, Ghost Rider, Angel, and Iceman. Two of the characters from the Uncanny X-Men, one of the characters on his own, holding down his own title, and two former Avengers. You'd think that would be enough for success, but it wasn't, and the Champions book only lasted 17 issues. Most of their subplots were resolved in other places, like Spectacular Spider-Man. That, in a nutshell, is how that works, and that is our hero teams. Join us next time when I will talk a little bit about establishing a successful villain team, because as we all know, part of what makes hero stories great to read are watching the heroes battle villains that challenge their every element. Thanks for joining. Troy David Phillips at Flashback Comics. Enjoy your super teams.